Alright, so month 2 of Warhammer Stormbringer. So on this one, we have 4 paints on a brush. So this will be the next one that we're doing. Unless the painting guide sort of makes it that we need to do the other models first. And we've got number 5, which is our sort of legendary character, the Praetor Prime. It's just this guy here. It's just a small little single character, so we might lob this in with another edition. Then we have edition 6, which is 10 Hobgrot Slitters. So 10 of these guys. And then we have another piece, which is 2 paints and a measuring stick thing for gameplay. So I'm assuming you roll for distance moved, and then you have that, or you have characters with a minimum movement per turn. So the backs basically just show the next editions coming up. So 5, 6, which are these 2. 6 shows 7 and 8. So we get a few views of what's coming up. There's another paintbrush coming up. And then 8, 9. So there's like another special orc unit. But anyway, that's getting ahead of ourselves. Alright, so let's open up number 4 and see what we've got inside. Alright, so we get one Citadel starter brush. It's just basic brush. It's got a very nice tip on it. And it's nice and smooth. Now I don't know anything about brushes, so this is going to be interesting. I have a whole heap of brushes I have never painted before. And then we have a couple of paints. This one is Orruk Flesh. It seems to have separated into 2 colors. Let's see what happens if I shake this. Okay, so the dark blue separated out of the pigment. So it's a mixture of 2 pigments, I guess. It's like a dark blue and then a lighter color, which turns into this very orcish looking green. We then have base Retributor Armour. So this would be the armor for all the Stormcast Eternals. Shaking that up doesn't really change anything. But yeah, that's sort of like a goldish bronze metallic with a bit of like a glittery type of look to it. We then have Kantor Blue, which is going to be used across both minis, I think. Shaking doesn't really change anything. It's just it's both dark and light at the same time. It's a very distinct shade of blue. And then finally we have base Leadbelcher, which will be for all the metal components on the minis, which also doesn't change much. It's pretty much just a metallic paint. So these 2 are pretty much the same style. Alright. Now, unfortunately, this came in the mail kind of bent. So that sort of sucks. Let's open it up and see what's inside. So I've got the usual stuff, but except it's missing the collect section and maybe another section. The build section is probably where it's missing. So something about Skyheld. There's a little thing of how to paint. There's a bit more lore just around some of the stuff. So, setting up your painting area. Before you start, it's important to find a good spot in which you can paint. Here. Find somewhere you can sit comfortably and avoid interruptions. Once you've found a good spot like a desk or at the kitchen table, gather the essentials shown below to set up your painting area. Now, they didn't give me a paper towel. They didn't give me a water pot. All I've got is my brush, the 4 paints, and my Warhammer models, as well as the magazine. So it asks for a palette pad. I do have a palette pad, a painting pad from Game Envy, the Exemplar, which I have yet to open. Maybe we'll use it, but for now I might use this one from Green Stuff World, because it's just simple, although it is extra large, so this is gonna have to be off to the side somewhere while we do this. So this one has 2 hydrofoam mats, 50 papers, and an elastic band to hold it together. I have no idea what I'm doing with these, to be honest, but all I know is you put water in this, the foam gets wet, you put the paper on top, that provides a wet surface for the paints to not dry out on while you're using them, and that's about it. So let's continue with the book first, just to see how things are going to go. And we might end up painting our models now, or we might move on to the next editions just to get some more stuff done before we start actually putting paintbrush to mini. Alright, having a good source of light is really important when painting, as it lets you see the models properly. Spaces with lots of natural light, such as near windows, are ideal. If it's dark out or you can't find a spot with natural light, you can use a lamp while painting your models. Well, you guys are attached to a gigantic ring light, which you can probably tell because it's hard to actually see from the reflections, unfortunately. I would like to be able to fix this sort of lighting issue, but it's what we've got for now. Alright, paint essentials. Paint pot. Always keep a water pot or mug filled with clean water near you. You can use the water and some paper towels to clean your brush between colors, which will help your brush last longer. Now, I have this thing from Green Stuff World. So this is like one of those dog watering things, but basically for your brush. So you fill that with water. This thing's very temperamental, unfortunately. But you fill that with water that fills up here. You press down here to drop the water through, so dirty water goes through. So I've got that as an option, or if I go into my treasure trove, I also have one of these from Game Envy. Technically I have 2 of them, but these are little pop-out water cup holders with a brush cleaner for the bottom. And yes, I have spent a lot on a lot of stuff specifically for mini painting and 3D printing, and I have not used any of it. It's been 2 years, and this is the first time I'm actually getting into the actual process of painting. So this is a bit daunting for me. So now that we've got those 2 options before us, we can continue on. So for the paint palettes, don't paint your models straight from the pot. Instead, use a palette pad or another appropriate surface as a palette. When you paint, this will give you a place to portion out your paint, mix new colors, or thin down the paints you are working with. So thinning paints is going to be something I'm going to have to learn, and how much paint to actually put on the model. Now, I was originally thinking that maybe I could just paint straight out of this. This tells me not to. And seeing as we're going to be following through the guide, I am inclined to use one of the paint palettes. So, paint brushes and texture spreaders. In this magazine, you will receive a number of paint brushes as well as a special texture spreader. Each of these brushes is designed for a specific use, from quickly getting base coats on a model to painting the smallest details. You will begin painting with the starter brush, a good all-around brush for a variety of tasks. That is this brush right here. And amazingly, these photos are to scale, because that is the actual size of my brush. So that's a texture spreader. So it's like a little flat brush on the end. I wonder if we will get all of these in the entire magazine set. As far as I know, there's only 2. Alright, how to paint. Stormcast Eternals and Crawl Boys. So this looks like it will be specifically for painting the first set that we've done. So in it, we'll use the Citadel paint system to paint the models. We'll do this by undercoating the models, which will provide a good base to paint the rest of the colors over later. Read instructions carefully before you begin. Follow each step in order. So what have we got? Retributor Armour and Orc Flesh. It's the models, everything that we've done, which are just out of camera up there. So shaking and opening the paint pot. Give your paints a thorough shake before you open them. When you open the pot, lock the lid in place with the plastic tab on the back of the pot. Something must lock in when you open it. I don't want to spill paint everywhere, but let's see how this opens. Oh, that's really in there. I'm guessing that's because of the sealing tabs on there. Make sure your paint pots are properly closed after you use them. This will stop them drying out and prevent messy accidents. I might have to cut these just to open them up. So I really don't feel like spilling paint everywhere. And these do require quite a bit of force to open up for some reason. Okay, there we go. So this locks back, apparently. I don't want to drip the paint everywhere. Okay, right now, I cannot figure that out. We'll come back to that when we're ready to actually have paint around, because if this gets on the stuff, I'm not getting it off. I am not prepared for the paint everywhere yet. So holding the brush gently between your thumb and forefinger, resting the handle against your hand as if it were a pen. It's just the usual. Yeah. Taking paint from the pot. So you dip the brush into the pot until there is paint halfway up the bristles. So we don't want all of the bristles with paint on them. When loaded with paint, your brush should look like this. Simply dip it back into the pot when you need more paint. Alright, so just basic stuff. Okay, so yeah, undercoating, here we go. So first you'll need to paint your Vindicators and Knight Arcanum with 3 thin layers of Retributor Armour paint, covering the entire body of the model. You do not need to undercoat the bases of each model, and you won't be painting the rocks or slabs on the bases either. So we apparently covered the entire thing with the gold, which I wasn't actually expecting. So we're basing it with the gold until it becomes like this, and then we're painting on top of that. I would have thought it would have been like, from what I've seen online, spray it down with like a white for a zenithal prime, as they call it, and then start painting, basically. But this one is wanting to underpaint with the gold instead of either doing it raw or with a white or black undercoat, which is quite interesting. So it goes through that. Same for the Orc Boys. You cover everything in the green, which seems quite counterintuitive to me, seeing as that becomes red. Because the way I'm thinking is the undercoat would sort of show through unless you paint extra over the stuff, and that seems like a waste of green. And that seems like a waste of the golden bronze. Okay, introduction to base coating. Base coating is a really simple technique that you'll use to paint every single model in your collection. Base coating involves painting the core elements of a model in block colors. providing a foundation for the rest of your painting to build on. This guide will help you learn and practice base coating. Okay, so that's undercoating, and then this is what base coating actually is. Alright, that's terminology for me to learn. So this part will have the blue and the silver. I kind of don't want to go further into this because this looks pretty awesome. But let's just quickly skip through. See, there's full painting. Alright, so the Stormcast Eternals will be fairly fully painted except for the skin colors, and then the Orcs will end up hardly, seriously, it's like hardly painted. And that's the entirety of the painting for this. So the rest is just gameplay. Alright, so I guess we will paint them this way. I honestly thought this would have been a bit more technical, but they've made it really simple. You literally just cover the entire thing with the paints. And the question is, what happens when I run out of these? Because I can't afford to buy more. Because what are these, like $12 a pop? Because once I run out of these, well, I'm going to have to start going looking for them. And that's going to be fun. So hopefully there's enough paint in there for all of the models. Okay, so it takes about 5 minutes for each coat of paint to dry fully. It might look dry sooner, but try to avoid adding new coats before 5 minutes are up. While one model is drying, you can use the time to paint another model. By the time you're done, the first model will probably be dry. There's a lot of information here for me to read. So I guess I'm going to have to start so we can get on with this. This is also coming apart, this book. So I assume these are supposed to come apart and then you'd put these in the binders when we have them. But it's just a shame this got all squished up.